Okay guys, it's no secret now that H.R. 38, which was the reciprocity bill, has now been combined with 4477, which is the Fix the NICS bill. We do not support that combination because 4477 has some bad things in it. The devil is in the details. What we're going to do today is we're going to go over some of those more specific things. We're going to go down a rabbit hole, which is more likely a rat hole. A lot of the YouTube guys out there have done a really good job explaining a lot of the details about combining these two and what's wrong with 4477. So we're not going to go into all of that again, but I want to go into something very specific that pertains directly to me and my family. That's why this is so near and dear to my heart. It's not in the dirt of the bill where they combine 38 and 4477. There's no wording in there that's really going to scare you. There's not enough of it in there. The bill that runs parallel to it in the Senate, that's where the details are that the devil wrote. It's S2135. If you go to the second page, you'll see where they're describing how someone gets put on the NICS list, which makes a perfectly good law-abiding citizen ineligible for purchasing a firearm legally, even though they should be able to. One of the things they mention is the total number of records of the federal department or agency demonstrating that a person falls within one of the categories described in subsection G or N of section 922 of Title 18 United States Code. That's where apparently the definition or the definitions of how you're going to get put on this list reside. They mention it again 2 paragraphs down. The records shall be limited to those of an individual described in subsection G or N of section 922 of Title 18 United States Code. Sounds pretty important. If they've referred to it twice, must be pretty important. We figured we'd find out. This is subsection G and N of 922 of Title 18 United States Code. The first part of it seems relatively innocent. It talks about people who could be a fugitive from justice, and Gun Owners of America have talked about that a little bit. I'm not going to go into detail on that. The second part of it talks about controlled substance. Okay, we're not going to talk about that much either, even though there is a lot to do with that, because a lot of people out there are talking about it. Marijuana is still a controlled substance. Even though it could be one joint you got stopped, now you're not going to be able to purchase a firearm anymore because you're going to go onto this NICS list. That's still not what bothers me the most. What hits close to my family is number 4 right there, who has been adjudicated as a mental defective or who has been committed to a mental institution. Mental defective. We had to go one step further because, again, these bills are simply not providing any detail. They're making you go look for this stuff. I was lucky enough to actually find this definition by the ATF themselves. They actually have this. So, the ATF lists a mental defective, includes persons who are found incompetent to stand trial or not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect, lack of mental responsibility, or insanity, and that the term includes persons found guilty but mentally ill. If they're going to deem somebody mentally defective, that could be through lack of mental responsibility. Lack of mental responsibility. Do we really get how vague that term is? I am mentally irresponsible because I forget to put the garbage to the street on garbage day? Maybe I forgot to mail in my electric bill? That makes me mentally irresponsible. I'm having memory loss at my age now. That makes me mentally irresponsible? The next definition I have is from Legal Information Institute, and it is actually from Cornell University, which they're kind of known for their legal stuff. So I figured it's pretty good to take it from there. Adjudicated as a mental defective. It means a determination by a court, board, commission, or other lawful authority that a person, as a result of marked subnormal intelligence or mental illness, incompetency, condition, or disease, is a danger to himself or to others, or lacks the mental capacity to contract or manage his own affairs. Now remember, this is exactly what happened to a lot of the veterans who came back from overseas, and thousands of them went on the NICS list because now they were deemed unable to manage their own affairs, so bam, they're mentally defective, according to this. Now, I want to go back up. This is giving the definition that they're going to use, is giving a board or commission, that's just people, That's people who were just assigned, not elected. A board or a commission, it's giving them the same weight as a court. A determination by a court, board, commission, or other lawful authority. So now they're saying that a board or a commission, a group of people, so to speak, they're going to have just as much weight in determining factors as whether or not you're mentally defective as the court system does. At least in court, there's due process. You are considered innocent until proven guilty. But now a board or a commission can determine that on their own without going through court. It doesn't say and court, it's or. And it also says marked subnormal intelligence. What is marked subnormal intelligence? I know what liberals are out there thinking. I'm subnormal as far as intelligence goes. I get it. I get the joke, right? But really, what's the benchmark? What's the measuring stick? What's the ceiling? Marked subnormal intelligence? Something that's not even measured? Something that's not even defined? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, all right, Paul, a lot of this stuff right here, you're still not telling me why it applies to you. Okay, I'm about to make that case really clearly. Let's think of it in terms of felons, all right? If you've got a felon, we all know the rules about felons. If you got a felon, he cannot own a gun, purchase a gun, possess a gun, shoot a gun. Felons are off, the guns are off limits to a felon. We get that. We all kind of understand that. Have you ever wondered what happens if a felon lives in a house where there are non-felons who own guns? Have you ever wondered that? Let's think about this. You got a felon who has a roommate. The roommate has no arrest record whatsoever. Owns one gun for self-protection. What happens to that felon and to that roommate in the wild, crazy event that it is found out that there is a gun in that home? I'll tell you. There is a thing called constructive possession, and I will read this to you. Possession is not the same as ownership, and you can be convicted for possession of a firearm as a felon if you exert control over the firearm, such as by carrying it with you or shooting it. Okay, we all agree with that. But simply avoiding contact with the gun itself is not enough to keep you in the clear, and you may face possession charges where you never actually exerted control if you are found to have had constructive possession of the firearm. In general, courts can find that a felon had constructive possession of a firearm where the felon knew the firearm was in the home, simply knew it was in the home. Didn't touch it, didn't look at it, just knew that it was actually in the home itself. Or had the ability, the felon had the ability and opportunity to exert control of the firearm. In other words, the felon, if they had access to the firearm is what it is. They could have gotten the firearm. So if the felon knew it was in the house, or the felon could gain access to it, they could be locked up for all the other reasons, just like any other felon that might have possessed, tried to purchase, or shot a firearm. Now, you may be thinking, he's already a felon, that's his problem. What about the roommate? What about the perfectly good law-abiding roommate who just happened to have a felon as his roommate? Guess what? Your housemate may be at risk of an aiding and abetting charge. To add to this, the other person in the house who did legally own the gun can be found to have aided and abetted your possession of the gun, so long as that person knew of the felon's possession or constructive possession. That constructive possession is simply that felon knowing that there was a gun in the home. That's it. That's what constructive possession again means. And acted with intent to show that possession. While the government may face challenges in proving this, an aiding and abetting charge is a serious criminal violation, and thus precautions should be taken. All right, there you have it. A felon, if he's in the home, he's not permitted to have a gun in any kind of way. The non-felon in the home can be just as guilty, just knowing that the felon was in the home and the felon had access to that particular gun. How does that pertain to me? I don't have any felons living in my home. I actually have an individual in my home that the government would deem mentally defective. My son. My son is autistic. If my son is prevented from legally owning, possessing, handling, are shooting a firearm, how do we know that I'm not now going to get nailed with constructive possession? It is a thing. And it is a thing that applies to other people who can't legally possess or own a firearm, just like a mentally defective person that the government is going to deem, or a board or a group of people can deem are mentally defective. Let me tell you something. 1 in 58 boys born in this country right now are born autistic. That is a huge number. That's a lot of families out there. You think I'm being paranoid? You let a Barack Obama or a Hillary Clinton or a Chuck Schumer or a Dianne Feinstein, you let those people be in charge with this vague wording that you can very easily tie each piece back to something as simple as somebody being deemed mentally defective in your home. You give somebody like that, with that deceitful intent towards the Second Amendment, that kind of power, you give that to them, and you expect them to be honest. You tell me they're going to be honest with that. You tell me I got nothing to worry about. Contact your congresspersons and tell them no. If 4477 is combined with 38, we do not and will not support it. Tell them that you will vote them out of office if they support this vague anti-Second Amendment bill.